Okay, so what if an algorithm could predict football matches with like the precision of a scientific instrument? Well, today we're diving into this really fascinating and honestly kind of weird prediction system called KEI-ATPase 3.0. It claims it can do exactly that, but the way it talks about the beautiful game is, well, you've just got to see it for yourself, right? I mean, the polymerase engine, atmospheric friction, structural integrity, it sounds less like a pre-match analysis and way more like a physics problem from some sci-fi movie. It's so dense, it's confusing, and it just makes you immediately wonder. And that's the big question for this whole explainer, isn't it? We are going to decode this machine's language. We're going to figure out what it's really telling us about who's going to win, who's going to lose, and why. So let's get into it. Okay, think of this next part as our Rosetta Stone. We're going to translate three key pieces of this machine jargon into concepts that every single football fan is going to understand instantly. So, first up is this thing called atmospheric friction. Now, the system's definition is pretty vague, just environmental conditions. But when we actually dig into what it means for this specific tournament, it all becomes a whole lot clearer. Yeah, it's just the weather. That's it. Specifically, the model is flagging that the high heat and humidity are going to absolutely drain player stamina, especially late in the game. So from now on, when you see atmospheric friction, just think hot, sweaty, and very tired players. All right, next up, structural integrity. The system says this is all about a team's resilience to changes. And let me tell you, this concept is absolutely crucial when you're talking about a long tournament. In other words, it's all about squad depth. How strong is the bench? If your star player has to come off, is the guy replacing him any good? A team that has high structural integrity is a team that doesn't completely fall apart the second they have to make a substitution. And our last piece of jargon is metabolic equilibrium. Now, this one sounds super complex, right? All this talk about energy output and efficiency, but the idea at its core is actually really, really simple. Think about it like two perfectly matched runners in a marathon who are just stuck, running side by side, unable to get an edge. That's metabolic equilibrium. It's two teams that are just so similar in their style, their pace, their energy, that they're probably going to cancel each other out. And that usually means a cagey, low-scoring game or a draw. All right, so now that we can all speak the language of the machine, let's actually put it to use. Let's see what the KEI-ATPase 3.0 system is predicting for a specific slate of matches at the Africa Cup of Nations. Let's kick things off with its most confident pick, Senegal taking on DR Congo. The system points out Senegal's massive kinetic baseline, which is just a really fancy way of saying they take a ton of shots. And on the flip side, it flags DR Congo's defensive volatility, meaning their defense is shaky and prone to mistakes. So what the system sees is a really strong attacking team going up against a pretty fragile defense. And here it is, the system's final predictions all laid out. Look right at the top. Senegal is the huge favorite, with 89% confidence. The reasoning? Elite structural disparity. Remember that one? It means the system thinks there's a massive gap in squad depth between them and DR Congo. Now, look a little further down at the Nigeria-Tunisia and Uganda-Tanzania games. See that? Both are flagged for metabolic equilibrium, which is why the system is leaning towards tight, low-scoring games or even draws. But here's where it gets really interesting. The system doesn't just throw predictions at you, it actually organizes them into a clear strategy. It ranks every single pick by confidence, which helps turn all this data into a practical plan. And this chart just makes it crystal clear. You can see the system puts a massive 35% of its confidence behind that Senegal win. Benin is the next most confident pick, and then those two games flagged for metabolic equilibrium, well, they're seen as much less certain. So this confidence breakdown creates these strategic tiers. The Senegal win is labeled an ultra banker. That's the system's safest bet. It's sure thing. Then you have Benin as strong value. And the other two are called tactical shield and high volatility, which is the system's way of saying, hey, these are much, much riskier predictions. It even drills down to the player level. For example, it flags a potential tactical cooling for Nigeria's star striker, Victor Osimhen, which basically means he might get rested for this match. And it notes that Senegal is the most efficient team in the whole tournament, making it very likely they'll score early. So, here we are. We've got this incredibly powerful, data-driven system. It can translate all these complex factors into clear predictions with confidence scores. But this is football we're talking about. So the big question is still out there. Can an algorithm ever really capture the chaos and the magic of the game? And maybe the most fascinating thing about this whole system is that it kind of answers that question itself. It actually lists its own blind spots, the things it knows it just can't predict. A moment of pure individual genius, a stupid red card late in the game, or the raw passion of a local derby. The machine is literally self-aware enough to know its own limits. So it's not trying to be a flawless oracle. It's a tool designed to be used with human analysis, not to replace it. And that's really what it all comes down to. We've got this powerful analytical tool that can see patterns we can't even dream of. But at the same time, it admits that football is played by humans, not by data points on a screen. So can a machine ever truly predict the unpredictable? Well, that's something to think about next time you sit down to watch a match.